On October 2nd, 1979, shortly before 6 in the evening, a 39-year-old woman from southern Germany stood on the summit of Mount Everest. Behind her lay 6 years of waiting and a lifetime of climbing. Ahead lay a descent she would never finish, and nearly 30 years sitting upright in the snow. Her name was Hannelore Schmatz, and she was not a novice who had bought her way onto a mountain. Born in 1940, she married Gerhard Schmatz, a lawyer and committed mountaineer, in 1962. He brought her into the high peaks, and within a decade, the couple was leaving Germany almost every year for something serious. In 1973, they climbed Manaslu, 8th highest mountain on Earth, with its grim reputation for avalanche danger. In 1975, Hannelore reached the top of Tirik Mir in the Hindu Kush, the first German woman above 7,000 meters. In 1977 came Lhotse, 4th highest in the world, a summit that looks directly across at Everest, close enough to study it. Everest took longer to reach than any of them. Gerhard filed the permit application with Nepal's foreign ministry in May 1973, and the team did not get its turn until the autumn of 1979. 6 years of waiting for a slot, and they went privately. No alpine club behind them, no government backing, no sponsor. They paid for it themselves, which was unusual on that scale. But somebody had to run it. That somebody was Hannelore. Gerhard later wrote that his wife had an extraordinary gift for organizing and moving the enormous volume of supplies a Himalayan expedition swallows. She wasn't along for the ride, she made the thing function. The team was 8 climbers, Gerhard as leader, Hannelore, New Zealander Nick Banks, Swiss climber Hans von Kaenel, Germans Tilman Fischbach, Gunther Kempfe, and Hermann Warth, and the American Ray Genet, an Alaskan guiding legend who had been part of the first winter ascent of Denali. 5 Nepalese Sherpas supported them, including Sungdair Sherpa, a name that matters enormously later. Their route was the classic one from Nepal, through the Khumbu Icefall, up the western Khum, onto the Lhotse face, then to the South Col at just under 8,000 meters. From there, the southeast ridge climbs over the south summit to the top at 8,849 meters. Everything above the col sits inside the death zone, where the air holds roughly a third of the oxygen available at sea level, and the body shuts down whether you are moving or resting. Regulations barred them from establishing base camp early. It went in at 17,400 feet on August 31st. This was a post-monsoon climb, days shortening, temperatures dropping week by week. The season punishes anyone who runs late. Through September, the expedition fixed the route and stocked the camps. The plan was supplemental oxygen from the South Col upward, and light travel on the ridge, light enough that the summit teams carried no tent above the col. On a good day, that's efficient. On a bad day, it removes your only option. The first summit team went on October 1st. Gerhard Schmatz left the South Col at 5:45 in the morning, reached the top around 2 in the afternoon, and was back at high camp by 7 that evening. The final stretch walked in darkness. At 50, he became the oldest person to have climbed Everest at that point. More importantly, his entire group came down. The second team would go the next day. It included his wife. October 1st is documented hour by hour. October 2nd is reconstructed largely from the account of the one Sherpa who survived it. What is confirmed is this. Conditions were deteriorating, and Gerhard urged Hannelore to abandon her attempt. She went anyway. She left the South Col with Ray Genet and their Sherpa support into deep, soft snow, the kind that takes back part of every step. Progress was slow. The group slipped behind the schedule that keeps people alive up there, because every extra hour above 8,000 meters burns oxygen and daylight you cannot get back. They reached the summit at around 6 in the evening. Picture yourself standing there. You are the 4th woman in history to reach the highest point on Earth, the first German woman ever to do it, and the light is already failing. Below you lie more than 800 vertical meters of exposed ridge. You have been in the death zone since morning. On Everest, reaching the top is not the achievement. Getting off it is. The group started down into fading light. Somewhere below the south summit, Ray Genet gave out. On paper, Genet was the most cold-hardened man on that mountain, a Denali winter veteran, famously tough and famously stubborn. But his oxygen was gone, and so was his strength. He told the others he could not reach camp that night. He wanted to stop, dig in, and wait for morning. The Sherpas told them not to. The warning was direct. You cannot spend a night up here. The survivable option was to keep descending to the South Col, where there was shelter and cached oxygen. Hannelore Schmatz refused to leave him. Whether the reason for her decision was loyalty, exhaustion, or the flat indifference oxygen starvation produces in a brain, nobody can say for certain. What is documented is what they did. They stopped at roughly 8,300 meters, scraped a shallow hollow in the snow, and climbed into their sleeping bags. They had no tent. One Sherpa continued down toward the col to bring back oxygen and reached camp late that night. Sungdaer stayed. It's tempting to call this a stubborn refusal to listen. It's more accurate to say the altitude had already stripped away the exact faculty needed to recognize a fatal choice as fatal. The wind was rising. The night hadn't started yet. What followed was roughly 12 hours of exposure at an altitude where the body cannot generate enough heat to hold its own temperature. There was no shelter. Nylon bags, a trench in the snow, and wind driving unobstructed across the ridge. Hypothermia in those conditions is arithmetic. Heat leaves faster than the body can make it. The core cools, the heart slows, and awareness fades before the person understands what is happening. Ray Genet did not survive the night. The man who had climbed Denali in winter died in the open on the southeast ridge of Everest. His body was never recovered. Hannelore lived until morning. So did Sungdaer. When the sun rose again, the two of them stood up and started their last attempt down the mountain. They nearly made it. The high camp on the South Col lay about 100 vertical meters below, the final few hundred steps of a descent she had almost completed. Tents in view, oxygen in view. Then she stopped. She sat down in the snow and leaned back against her pack. According to accounts that emerged later, she repeated a single word: water. Water. She never stood up again. Hannelore Schmatz died sitting upright, roughly 100 meters above the camp she had spent the entire night trying to reach. Sungdaer stayed with her to the end, then descended alone and reported what had happened. He was in critical condition himself by then and had to be evacuated. Those hours in the open had cost him most of his fingers and most of his toes. Of the 8 climbers and 5 Sherpas on the expedition, 11 came home. 2 did not: Ray Genet and Hannelore Schmatz, who at 39 became the first woman and the first German to die on the upper slopes of Everest. The margin is what stays with you. Schmatz had done the hard part. She stood on the summit, survived a night that killed a stronger climber beside her, and walked to within sight of safety. The mountain asked for more than she had left. For decades she sat beside the route, eyes open, hair moving in the wind. Chris Bonington mistook her for a tent in 1985. Eventually, the wind carried her over the edge, and Everest finished keeping her.